Today's shooting, like every shooting that makes the news, produced fevered calls for new restrictions on gun ownership and gun rights. Jumaane Williams is a member of the New York City Council. After today's shooting, he put out a statement calling for, quote, common sense gun legislation that addresses the supply and demand for guns. He also demanded new laws, quote, combating the leadership of the NRA as they try to deceive people into thinking they're simply working to protect Second Amendment rights. Councilman Williams joins us tonight. Councilman, I guess the obvious question is, what gun law would have prevented the shooting today?
I think it's a combination of things. First, my prayers for Representative Scalise and his family. I know
Amen.
He's in critical condition. I think it's a confluence of things that we need in preventing this type of supply. That's the supply side. These supply of guns are going into these communities. We have to prevent it. This man apparently had a criminal history. Why did he have access to these guns so readily? We also need to prevent gun laws like the ones that NRA.
May I answer? I know the
Sure.
answer to this. So he bought his gun legally. He had a federal background check.
Sure.
He was not convicted of any crime, and so of course you can't punish people without convicting them under our system.
Sure.
And he lived in a rural area, so it's not like guns were flooding into his community. He went and bought it at a gun shop, as he's allowed to do. So again, since you used this shooting as a way to promote your political views on gun control,
sure,
what gun law would have prevented this shooting?
So my answer to that question is, one, as I said, there's supply and demand. The supply side is all of the illegal guns that we talk about were legal at some point. So there's too many points of purchase and too much ability to get unfettered access to guns. I believe and understand he had 2 guns. I don't know necessarily that you need 2, 3, and 4 guns. There are people who repeat.
But he had, he had a rifle, and he shot a lot of people with a rifle. Five people with this rifle. He got it legally again. So I guess the point I'm making is there are hundreds of millions of firearms in the United States. The Second Amendment guarantees the right, as translated by the Supreme Court, for people to buy them. How do you stop gun crime or shootings like this short of confiscating every gun, which obviously is not going to happen?
No, you don't have to confiscate every gun.
So how would you have prevented this crime?
But there are laws that could be put in place that minimize the access to guns, minimize the access to semi-automatic weapons that people won't even entertain. There is research that can be done with the CDC to see what those laws are. But the Republicans and the NRA block that kind of research.
Okay, but I don't know why you're waiting for the NRA to do your work for you or the CDC. Now, you're an elected official, and you're using a tragedy. You're leveraging a tragedy in order. Of course you are. You're sending out a press release in the middle. People are still being carted to the hospital saying, we could have prevented this. So I'm asking you the obvious question, which is how?
You're speaking to a council member who's a proud member of the city council, who's had a voice in helping New York City be one of the safest cities in the country. So there should be people listening to what's happening.
Well, congratulations. But we're talking on a day about a mass shooting that took place in Alexandria at 7 a.m. this morning, and you used that occasion to send out this press release for the 4th time. What law would have prevented this?
We're talking about the 159 other mass shootings that have happened in this country.
So you'll concede nothing you're proposing would have stopped this one?
No, I'm saying we're talking about the 27,000 Americans that have died since the beginning of this year alone. And I'm saying the gun violence is occurring because there's a supply. And what I'm saying, there is combinations of gun laws that we should put forth and discuss. I'm saying that we should be allowed to just even research.
Look, you're allowed to say whatever you want on this show. Any crazy idea you have, this is an open forum. I'm going to try for a 5th time, then I'm going to completely give up. Because what you're doing is you're steering the conversation to the general when I would like to bring it back to a very specific thing.
It has to be brought to a general because this is not about one incident.
Because you don't have a real answer. That's why.
No, because this is one incident that you want to focus on. And
so there are millions of high-capacity so-called assault rifles, 5.56, 223, perhaps a rifle used today, that kind of rifle.
There's no one who's listening
What do you do with those guns?
There's no one who's listening who can say there is not too much access to guns in this country, and the correlation to how many people die from gun violence in this country than to anyone else is huge. And so we have to have a discussion about gun laws.
I'm trying to have a discussion right now, and I'm not making much headway because you're bringing it back to these banal bumper stickers. What do you do about the millions of these rifles in this country?
Access to high-capacity weapons. Access to purchase weapons if you have criminal history.
You're not hearing me. They're already there. What do you do? Do you ban them? Do you confiscate them?
How about we stop first? How about we get a stopgap and then have have a discussion.
A stopgap, what does that
We can't
mean?
even have the discussion.
What is that? We can have our discussion.
The CDC can't even do research to answer your question because the NRA and the Republicans won't let them. How about we start there? How about allowing the CDC to do research on this issue?
I invited you on hoping you'd have something interesting to say.
I do.
And you're giving me the same talking points about the CDC. We're having to, the floor director's telling me we're out of time.
Yeah,
last question. We have all these rifles out there. Should we confiscate them or not?
That's not the question. The question is, how do we prevent the supply of guns into these communities?
Okay. Mr. Williams, I appreciate it.
Thanks
for coming on. Up ahead, 2 more congressmen will join us to talk about today's shooting and its aftermath.